Welcome to this special edition of the DPW podcast live from the floor of the DPW New York, where procurement, technology, and innovation converge. I'm your host, Chris Sawchuk, and today we're exploring the biggest ideas shaping the future of business and transforming procurement as we know it. So let's dive in, and our session today is focused on driving digital strategy and transformation in procurement. And joining me to have that conversation is Ava Choe from the Clorox company. Ava is the Chief Procurement Officer. She spent 20 plus years in procurement. Her background is a variety of CPG companies, ADM, Diageo, Danone, L'Oreal, and even a private equity firm that was owned by KKR. And most of these roles have been global, from what you've described. You reside in Jersey, so not too far from here, and born in Argentina. But the thing that I thought was most interesting is that you played D1 tennis in college, and with all of that experience, you missed participating in the recent DPW paddle tournament. I'm going to come back to you on that one. Also joining me is Ashish Gupta. He's the Director of Procurement Excellence at the Clorox company. The way you described your career is a zigzag career. I would say similar to mine. You started in R&D, program management, business operations, and you finally found your home in procurement. You worked across the globe, similar to Ava, and you're a self-described procure tech enthusiast, something that you're using that to drive transformation in organizations. You're a yoga practitioner, Bollywood fan. But again, the thing that I thought most interesting is that you've described your procurement journey, and again, this is a very new one for me, as one from a washing machine to a self-driving car. And again, like I said to Ava, I'm going to come back to you on that one as well. So let's dive into our conversation today and explore. So Ava, I'm going to start with you. And, if you look out there, we're here, and a lot of people would suggest that even at this conference, as you look to the future, that you must leave the past. And I want to ask you, first of all, do you believe this? Is this something that you believe in, that we have to do that? And if so, what do we got to leave?
Wow, that's a very good question. I wouldn't say that we have to leave the past, because we obviously learn from the past, and we bring a lot of that experience into the future, into the present, and into the future. In fact, I always call myself an analyst at heart, right? Because I started as an analyst back in the day, and what I know today is a lot from what I learned in the past. So I wouldn't say we have to leave stuff in the past. What we do have to leave are legacy, perhaps tools or habits that are blocking us from really creating that incremental value, just because we're so attached to that, right? I think that's it's almost like you can't really create the future if you're going to continue to use the old playbook, if you will, right? So that's where I believe. I think that we're in a position right now where we're evolving. And I mentioned it earlier. Procurement is in a pivot point. If already gone to the other side, where we're now sitting at the table in front of the executives. We're sitting at the table with the board. And they're asking more of that. The traditional sourcing is no longer enough. I think we all know that, right? And so how do you do with more just doing the same from the past? You just can't do that. But you can bring your experience into the present and into the future.
Yeah, you certainly have to rethink, as you mentioned, even like a vision of the future.
Absolutely.
But is this something that you see that is driving leaders today? So, we're at this conference, DPW, here in New York, and there's a lot of folks that are doing this. Do you believe that this is also what's driving a lot of them as well? That, they have this, area that they're focusing on looking forward, and that they understand that they have to understand and learn from it, as you said, but leave this legacy behind.
Yes. A lot of our leaders, a lot of our peers are, desperately looking at, solutions that is going to answer a lot of the targets and a lot of the pressure that we're seeing, right? There's a lot more demand for a lot of our procurement professionals out there.
Yeah.
But even outside of procurement, it's just the era of AI, right?
Yeah.
If I just go a little broader within the supply chain, the end to end, right?
Yeah.
Everything is now integrated. Everything is just a lot more connected. And so I see a future of where, where does procurement play in all of that?
Yeah.
And procurement is playing in every, corner and every inch of that supply chain. And now going beyond that, also into the services area as well, right? So yes, the demand is higher. And therefore, yes, leaders are looking to embed a lot of the newness that are coming into this field.
Let me ask you this: you just highlighted the future, and sometimes that if you look into the future, a lot of folks are saying, well, we have to think differently about that. That it has to be more digital first. We have to think, with technology on the mind. And it's a lot different than a lot of organizations thought in the past. I mean, transformation was very broad and, we think, but, now you have this sort of digital first. Is that something that you subscribe to?
Yes. I don't know if I'm going to live in that future. I hope I hope I am, but I'm envisioning almost like a science fiction type of procurement in the future where, is less of that back office, is less of that, those tasks, and it's really at the fingertip where you can actually, smell what the risk is already, and you have ample time to actually do something about that, where we have immediate data insights that we can turn it into providing what consumers actually want today, right? So I'd love to live in that vision, in that future, where a lot of the muscles that we're actually using today, our brain muscles, is all about creativity, innovation, and less of that task oriented or crunching numbers or so. And I'm not saying those are not important work, absolutely not, but wouldn't it be better to expand your horizons into being more business acumen and into being that business partner, rather than you're just there for cost or you're just there for negotiation. I'd love to envision one day that they don't call us a cost function or a contract function. In fact, we almost never talk about that, right, Ashish? I mean, you can, right? Some vocabularies are banned from our conversations.
Yeah. Well, see, you talk about this vision. You highlight. I always say, is you think about a vision for the future. You have to be able to describe it. And I used the term before. You have to paint a picture of what that looks like, because if you don't have a vision of what that looks like in the future, it's hard to actually put a path to achieving it, right? But do you see the vision that you just painted a bit? Is that a vision that most procurement organizations should share?
I hope they are.
Yeah.
I hope they are, for the sake of the function, and raising the talent across the organizations of procurement.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's just an incredible organization and function. I mean, throughout my career, there was a point of time where I actually moved out of procurement and I was actually in sales. I was doing commercial strategies, and it's just not the same. Procurement is everywhere. We're everywhere. We're the octopuses, right? And I've seen, and I want to see this function do a lot more.
Yeah.
Right? So yes, I do envision that, and you got to stay away from the spreadsheets and be able to have that live dashboards in front of you and reading data insights, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully, we'll get to that point. And I know a lot of the leaders are envisioning that, or else we wouldn't be here today.
Right. And you're painting a nice picture. And so, with that picture, Ashish, I'm going to, turn to you, because as you do that, and as Ava has described this vision that's out there, I want to ask you, as you start thinking about the type of talent that's necessary and the mindset of individuals that are participate in that kind of vision that Ava is shaping, what does that look like? What do those people have to be? What's that mindset? What is that type of talent?
I think first is we need to move from perfectionist mindset to an experimental mindset. Like, we are ready to experiment, we are ready to learn, and we are ready to unlearn.
Yeah.
We are not afraid of failures. Failure is just seen as a data point. Eva just mentioned juggling around the spreadsheets.
Yeah.
If you look today, even if you buy $1 million software, the number one feature which people ask us, can I download into an Excel?
Yeah.
So can we Excel without Excel? I think that's the mindset, that's the future. And in terms of talent, I think the role would be part detective,
Yeah.
part storyteller,
Yeah.
and part innovator. And by detective, I means people are comfortable with the data. They can uncover insights which are hidden somewhere beneath the surface.
Yeah.
But then they should be storytellers where they can translate those complex numbers into stories or narratives that inspire action and alignment. And most important is to have a growth mindset, like the curiosity that fuels continuous learning. In the past, procurement is seen as a control function, but I think now it's all about co-creation. So we don't need to follow the map. We need to draw the map. Now it's an opportunity for us. Uh, we don't need to be a gatekeeper. We need to be a gate opener.
Yeah.
I think that's the mindset for the future. So I would say that we need talent with curious minds, courageous heart, and unlimited hunger to reimagine the way we are doing things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you highlighted several things that, as Ava, you made a comment. There's things in our past, the legacy that we need to leave behind, and you highlighted, several of those that need to leave behind. Ava, are you aligned with what
Absolutely.
Ashish is highlighting, and is there anything that you would add to that?
No, yeah, absolutely. I think that I think there's a overrated conception about AI. First of all, and I think the overrated concept or misperception in AR is that it's gonna, replace us next Tuesday, and that's not gonna happen. I mean, we're still trying to get clean data out
I
of
better
Excel,
start hurrying
right?
up and looking for a job. That's going to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to.
Yeah.
That's definitely, an overrated statement, and that creates unnecessary fear, unnecessary misconception about what AI can actually do.
Yeah.
What's underrated is almost the opposite of that. What's underrated is that, we're not thinking about the power of AI can do to the human judgment. And
Yeah.
how can it augment your judgment? And really make you smarter and make you a lot more insightful in your day to day, right?
Yeah.
And I think that when we accept that and we get past that fear, right? That's when you're going to see, the type of talent that just really going to elevate their own work. And so yeah, absolutely, the growth mindset. What do you do with data? How do you turn data into insights? It sounds so cliche, but it is so critical that we start looking at data in that way. But first, we got to get the AI things first, right? In order, right? And it doesn't come overnight.
Yeah. 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 It's interesting. I used to, as I describe what you guys have been highlighting, is that, there's an element of data that we have to get a lot of data because data keeps growing.
Yes.
And if we want innovation, we know that we can't just be going back to the same data, right? It's going to get stale over time. We have to continue to add to it. So it is one of your capabilities. And then you have to be able to engage with that data, right? And so we had to develop skills there. We got AI that helps us better, engage with that data. But I think the thing that was really interesting to me is you talk about, we got to be able to tell stories about it. What does it mean? And this is, how do we take that and, do something with it that drives action within the organization? And I think that's critical because it doesn't mean anything if we're not going to make some change in a positive direction within our enterprises. So let me do this. And I want to go back to you, Ashish, as we think about data and we think about the technology, we think about the mindset, your perspective in terms of what's harder, changing the technology or changing the mindset?
Absolutely mindset.
Absolutely mindset.
I doubled on that.
Explain. And again, I mean, you guys, some folks out there will sit there and say, come on, I mean, the technology, there's a lot we got to go do. It's, all this, but what do you mean by that?
Like, if you think about changing the technology, it's like you're signing up for a gym membership. But if you're talking about changing the mindsets, it's about getting up every morning, going to gym, doing exercise and sweat. I mean, that's changing mindset.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work. It requires a lot of commitment.
I'm already tired.
Depends on how early you want me to get up.
It's like, changing the technology is about, it's about like you have the budget and you buy it. But changing the mindset is you need to believe. You should have belief and you need to earn it.
Yeah.
Like, you can upgrade the system overnight, but upgrading the mindset, that requires daily login.
Yeah.
That requires daily login. So it's very, very hard to change the mindset. But if you can change the mindset, everything else follows. And it's not about the technology itself. It's about making people feel that they are part of this journey.
Yeah.
And they feel that, this technology is making my life better. I am feeling better. I'll give you an example in the past, like when mobile phone was introduced, like why mobile phone was successful. The fundamental difference between landline and mobile is landline is when you're calling to a place.
Yeah.
And mobile is when you're calling to a person. Right? So it's for me.
Yeah.
So the moment, there is this feeling, there is this moment that it's for me, that's where, the mindset changes. So, and that's the hardest part. Yeah.
Yeah. It's sort of like my cell phone number is my, it's like a social security number now.
That's my address.
It's portability, right? It's portable with me. I'll never probably lose that number, even though I live in potentially a different area code than I did in the past. So
I would add to that.
Yeah.
Let me add to that. Speaking about mindset, what we also need to, probably educate more or talk more about that is get on board with it, right?
Yeah.
Accept it.
Yeah.
It's here to stay. We can't fight it, right?
Yeah.
And I spoke a little bit about in the earlier session about that, but the old habits. I don't know when did Excel files started? 1980, 70?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's I would say 3 decades ago.
3 decades ago.
Yeah.
So if we, I didn't live to that. Now I'm telling what my age is, but I can picture.
It was only 5 years ago. So.
But I can actually picture
Yeah.
if we go back in that era when
Yeah.
Excel just came on board, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was doing my math on my piece of paper. And that's my habit, and that's
Yeah.
my old habit. It might have taken me, I don't know, a full day to just do a couple of calculations, but that was, hey, hard work. I'm crunching it. I'm getting into that outcome. Then Excel comes around, and I can just imagine that in a split second, that calculation is done. And what we need to make sure that we, it's that evolution is almost happening again. Right?
It is.
The evolution is happening again. And so a lot of folks had to learn how to use Excel files, learn how to do the formulas, the equal, plus signs, whatever, all that stuff. And what happened if you don't?
Yeah.
What happens if you don't? That's a provocative question. But
Yeah.
get on it, right? Accept it.
Well, I think it's interesting, going back to something you were saying before, is that, this whole evolution is we're moving to a level of autonomy. And, with Excel, it was a tool that gave us something that we had to your point, we had to get on it and we had to use it to be able to, improve our productivity and speed. But today we're actually moving into something that, that has levels of autonomy, that it may just do it for
you.
me,
Yeah.
without me even asking. In
Right.
some cases, it could be monitoring what I'm doing. So that's again, you talk about that's a different mindset to think about. How do I blend myself with this technology going forward? It always reminds me of an analogy. If you go back to, I don't know, back in the 2015 timeframe, Iron Man. And you think about Robert Downey Jr. And I always use this analogy because, you know, Robert Downey Jr. was a very, in that movie, you know, Tony Stark, I mean, he was a very capable individual, highly intelligent. But when he put that suit on, it gave him more strength.
Right.
It gave him even more intelligence because it was, you know, it basically had a supercomputer on it. It allowed him to fly. So it was this augmentation, right? And it's a different mindset to say, I'm going to be augmented in a different way with this, in a even more autonomous way. So we got to get the organization comfortable with that.
Right.
Yeah.
And if I may add, I think the mindset shift, what I have seen, doesn't happen like in big speeches, but it happens in quiet moments when you as an individual realize, yeah, it's simplifying my work. You know,
Yeah.
it's elevating my work, or it's helping me to shine in front of the stakeholders. That's where the mindset happens. Like so,
Well, I think, you know, what you're highlighting is a very empowering kind of environment. You know, it's you know, you said until I don't have my cell phone with me right now, but you highlighted that became personal to me, and I started to engage with it. I wasn't told, but today, you know, if you look at AI, I mean, it's very empowering. You know, a lot of individuals, they can build their own agent. Who better know what I need to engage and augment what I do than myself? So I want to go back to stakeholder buy-in. And Ava, I want to ask you
Sure.
on the buy-in. You know, as you think about that and organizations are going out to, what kind of guidance can you give to organizations as they think about the transformation, obtaining and securing that buy-in from all of the stakeholders of supply management and procurement, this vision, this capability that you're building?
I mean, it's really speak their language, right? Speak their language. What's in it for them? What's in it
With them.
with them?
Yeah.
And
What's
it
in
is
for me?
true. It's not about
Yeah.
the tool. It's really about the outcome of that, and what value does that have on your stakeholders, right?
Yeah.
Which essentially directly has a value on you as well, right?
Yeah.
So I would say the buy-in here is as put together business cases. It's really how is it going to benefit you?
Right.
You know, whichever functions you're in, right? Whether the user friendly, whether the user experience, whether it's you know, the speed of when we're gonna get the data, and just, you know, making it super attractive for them to want to have that buy-in, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's sort of the concept of designing from the outside in. You know, yeah, my perspective, and having been in this space 5 years like you, you know, is as you look back, you know, so many times we built stuff and we just pushed it out at everybody and say, you know, whether you like it or not, this is it, right?
Yeah.
But it's looking at from the outside and say, what should we be building? So let me ask you this, you know, as you think about the digital tools, it's really sort of a follow-on to that. How do you build them so that people want to use them?
I can start with that. Co-design with them. That's what we're doing. You know, we've got a problem. We identified what that problem statement is.
Yeah.
Usually, and most of the time, that problem statement is impacting some sort of stakeholders of yours.
Yeah.
Bring them along. Say, hey, do you have this problem? I have this problem. And co-design that and co-lead that. And then, you know, together you advocate for it. And it's much easier to go to the top and get for that funding when it's 2 or 3 or 4. Now it's becoming an enterprise issue. It's not a procurement issue, right? So turn that narrative around. And all we do, we're now, you know, using the power of our stakeholders to advocate for it. It works.
Yeah. They have a stake in the game.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah.
And then in the change management and in the implementation part of it, you know, they're in it with you.
So as part of that, and again, this is something that I've seen in, I'll just say, too many organizations. You know, we're here at DPW. There are a lot of, I'll call them shiny tools that are out there. How do you ensure that as you build this, and whether it's co-creation, et cetera, is that you don't just end up with a whole bunch of shiny tools in your environment that aren't necessarily doing what they're intended to do, and, you know, it's actually driving to the objectives that you wanted in the first place for the organization?
I think first take a deep breath.
Okay. It's going to be a while.
Yeah, I think,
Okay.
I think
It's
somebody was
candy line
asking.
here.
Yeah.
I set you up well.
Somebody was asking me like what we should do. I said first take a deep breath.
Yeah.
So I think the digital roadmap is not a catalog of tools. It's a compass. It's about how we solve problems. It should not start with a solution. I think in the past we were so much excited about the technology that we first look for a solution
Yeah.
and then try to define a problem. And in the end, we end up creating technology zombies. I call it technology zombies.
Yeah.
So when we think about digital roadmap, it's about listening to people, their lobby conversations, their pain points, their Excel acrobatics, like what they're doing. Like somebody's saying, "Hey, I'm spending more time in chasing the data rather than actually doing it." So these conversations become the heartbeat of every digital decision. So,
Yeah.
and then digital roadmap, what we always think is how it can become a catalyst, not from the technology's sake, but how do we empower people so that they feel, yes, it's going to help me, not that I need to log in into another system. Oh, one more login.
Yeah.
So it's not about like, collection of tools, but it's about building something which is more meaningful and which helps us to think, bigger, much faster, and lead the change. So I would say, which like you should think about digital roadmap is like collection of your the tools, kitchen tools which you love, which are very simple,
Yeah.
which you use,
Yeah.
and which are very reliable. So nobody talks about like high-end juicer, which is collecting dust somewhere in your kitchen, but it's all about like coffee machine, which you use on a daily basis, which
Yeah.
empowers you, which enhances your convenience. So that's
Yeah.
should be the
Yeah.
thought process behind building your digital roadmap.
Yeah. So we're getting to the end of our time, and I wanted to ask both of you, what's a piece of advice that you would give to the procurement executives that are here today, those in the field that are, maybe even just beginning their journey, maybe they're further along, but what's one piece of advice you would give them?
I'll keep it simple. I think people first. And second thing is start small.
Okay.
Don't rush to the end. Start small. When I say people first, know where they're struggling
Yes.
and know where their biggest pain point is and start there. And look for the solution through technology because, there may be there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Ashish?
First of all, I completely like that's the approach we are taking. Start small because even the high jumper takes few steps before they make a high jump. So take each step. I think the other advice I would give is it's the digital journey is not knowing about the technology. It's all about knowing what really matters. And then you have the courage to reimagine it. I think that's the key thing. The other advice I would give is if you are in like somewhere in your digital journey and if you expect it's going to be straight line and in reality is never a straight line, don't get like disappointed, don't get frustrated. And if you ever feel that you are like, this is not going the way I'm thinking, just look at the EKG report.
Yeah.
If it's straight line, that means end of life. So it has to be up and down. That's a
Gotta
sign
be
of
up and down.
progress.
It's progress, right? Right. And so many people say the road to success is littered with failures. Yeah. Well, thank you. I got one. I lied. I got one last question for you, and it's not gonna. But Eva, I told you I was going to come back to this. Are you going to play in the next DPW paddle tournament?
Absolutely. I'm going to kick butt.
Okay. And Ashish, I want to know, and I said it before when I was introducing you, what do you mean by washing machine to self-driving car?
I think if you ask from any procurement professionals, they have gone through this journey. So washing machine is something which is thrown at you at the last time, just make it happen. We need the contract by tomorrow, right? So that's more like a washing machine. But the second stage is like a rental car. You are into an execution mode, like somebody is taking you, you don't know where you are going, but somebody is like, you're helping somebody to go there. But the self-driving is where somebody's saying, hey, this is my vision, this is my goal, but then you are deciding how you are going there. So I think I have experienced those phases from washing machine to rental car
You've experienced
to
all those.
self-driving.
So there you have it, right? I didn't know what that was, so thank you. And thank you to both of you. This was a wonderful conversation. Thank you for your insights, and thank you to the audience for listening.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you so much. Thank you.